Well, folks, allow me to introduce Ernest White II. He's a film and TV producer, journalist, presenter, keynote speaker, founder and CEO of Presidio Pictures, and he does film, television, digital media studio centering on BIPOC, LGBTQ plus, senior elder narratives, and also an executive producer and host award-winning TV program, Fly Brother with Ernest White II. Hey, he's got a bit of an extensive history here. He does writing too, does literary essays. He's been featured in Afar, Time Out London, USA Today, Getaway, Skylife, Ebony, The Manifestation, The Better Southerner, Sinking City, and on goes that story. He's a passionate proponent of global community building. All right. And he serves on the Condé Nast Traveler 2021 Advisory Board of Directors for the Impact of Travel Alliance. And it's a nonprofit organization. He also appears on the Travel Channel on TV, Destination Showdown, Jamaica, Baird, as well as the 2013 documentary film about the dangers of mass tourism, Gringo Trails. And he holds an undergraduate degree in political science from Florida A&M, and MFA in creative writing from the American University in Washington. As well, he's currently earning his certificate in the business and management entertainment from the University of California, Los Angeles. He's a Floridian from where he starts, and he likes Thai curry. Right on, and Rita Hayworth. And you know what? And I'm going to stop there. Ernest, the thunder is yours now, sir.
Thank you so much, Bernie. Thank you. I forgot half of that stuff that you just read about. And thanks everyone for having me here, Margaret, Ann, Denny, Robert, Eric, Dashcam, Sam, Martin, and Aikina. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you to everyone who's watching and will watch this going forward. A few years ago, I found myself in the mountains of Tajikistan. I was on assignment for Brat Travel Guides. It's a boutique travel guidebook company based out of the UK. And I was in Tajikistan to update one of their guidebooks. And I was on the side of a road trying to get to this town way up in the mountains called Tojikobod, just to find out whether or not the one hotel that was listed in the guidebook was still there, still accepted MasterCard or Visa, still still had the one person that may or may not speak English. And I did not speak Tajik, and I did not speak Russian, which was kind of the a lingua franca of the country, having been in the former Soviet Union. So I'm on the side of the road. I am trying to haggle with a cab driver to take me to this town, clearly at a disadvantage with my lack of local language skills and obvious phenotypic difference from most of the other people in Tajikistan. And so eventually I bit the bullet, paid, I don't know, 3 times more than I would want to, agreed to pay 3 times more than I'd wanted to pay, and got into a late model Eastern European car. It might have been a Lada, I'm not quite sure. And we start motoring on these mountain roads through some of the most spectacular mountain countryside I've ever seen. I had never seen so many shades of brown. And I know that may sound like it's dry and arid, but it was spectacularly beautiful, going from coal to cream and every shade in between. And around every corner was a different landscape. Crystalline turquoise water from some of the world's southernmost glaciers, and trees that had been brought in from other parts of the world because the Soviets had done that. They'd take trees from Canada and plant them in Tajikistan, and sometimes they would grow. And so you just got these magical landscapes as you were coursing through the countryside. And at one point, my driver, he would ask me a few questions in halting English, and I would try to answer that I was there as a journalist and was on assignment. At one point, when I thought I would be the only passenger on my way to Tojikobod, we stopped and picked up an older man. He got into the cab, and he had a beard, kind of gray beard. He had his local Tajik hat, which was kind of square shaped. It's called a toque. And just a kind countenance. He got into the cab in the back seat, nodded to me, spoke to me, and then started greeted me, should I say. I'm Southern, so we say to speak to somebody is to greet them. And he also started talking to the driver. And I heard a few words that I recognized, like journalist, and realized that I was being talked about. Not in a bad way. I didn't assume that the energy was the energy of connectivity. And at a certain point, we're driving again, still going, and I'm still trying to pick up on what's being discussed. Hotel, Tojiko board, yet, and no, and other things going on between them. And we pull up to the town, and I'm told by the driver, I think, because I still didn't know, I still didn't know exactly what everybody was saying. There's no hotel here. I'm going to stay at this gentleman's house. We get out of the cab, and I didn't have the language to argue against it. And I knew I was there on assignment, so it wasn't necessarily that I had to be anyplace else. So I just was where I was and decided to be where I was in that moment. The gentleman took me to get some food, lunch. We're sitting next to each other, not having any shared spoken language, but occasionally he would ask to see like the guidebook that I was writing, and I showed him, that I was updating, should I say. I showed him the guidebook. He pointed to some of the countries that was in the map that were around Tajikistan, and he said the names of the countries in Tajik. And he ordered food, and he started telling me the names of the different foods that we were about to eat, the rice and the pilaf, the plov that we were eating, and some of the other things. And I'm sitting there doing the same thing, pointing and saying things in English, pointing to and naming them in English. After lunch, he took me through town and introduced me to people along the way. And everyone that I met, mostly young guys, would put their hand over their heart and do a little bow to me in a way that spoke to this ancient kind of primordial recognition of each other. There was a silent, quiet quality to it, to that seeing. As the day goes on, he takes me to his home, a farm, with a lovely, well-kept farm and a house, and his wife lays out another meal for us. And we sit there for the rest of the night, just finding ways to communicate in the little bit of shared language that we had. And I learned that I think that he had been in the Russian army, that he had traveled to Moscow and St. Petersburg and China even in the army, and had since become a farmer. The next morning, we fell asleep on these little pallets in the room where there was the meal. So we stayed in this one large room with a lot of cushions, and an experience that was very common to Central Asia. We were sitting on the floor on cushions and just eating and sharing the food. And we fell asleep and woke up the next morning, and it was chilly. And he went and got me a coat, a Tajik coat that was corduroy on the outside and lovely embroidered floral print on the inside. And he takes my cell phone. I don't believe it was an Apple. And he takes a photograph. He takes many photographs, and many of them had his fingers in the photograph. I believe that was the first time that he had operated a smartphone, because he had a flip phone, and I saw him trying to figure this thing out. In the end, we exchanged phone numbers, and I never spoke to him again. But I left having been received into someone's home, a complete stranger with whom I was able to communicate with very little verbal engagement. It was the energy. It was the shared humanity that allowed us to connect, that allowed me to be cloaked in warmth, local warmth. And it's a story that I will always have, and I will always be able to take with me and share with people, that in the middle of Central Asia, in a part of the world that used to be at the center of the world, on the Silk Road between East and West, but over the past couple of centuries had been at the edge of the world, at the back end of the Russian and then Soviet empires, I was able to find recognition, love, and home. I love to travel, and traveling is, to me, one of the most impactful, transformative experiences that you can have. And it is because you get to meet people with whom you think you have nothing in common, and yet you have everything in common. The desire to feel seen, to feel empowered, and to feel loved. That is the crux of the television travel docu-series Fly Brother with Ernest White II. That's the show that I've since put together that focuses on global community building, that focuses on friendship and connection across background and boundary. And in every episode, I visit friends that bring me into their community, show me what they love about the place, and we show the audience the whole world is our tribe. The reason that show is even possible is because we live in a time where we can have the entire world in our fingertips, or at our fingertips, in our hands, all of those things. We have the technology that allows us to speak with each other and see each other right now, but then also to get offline and to meet each other in person, even now, where we can take our precautions, where we can be as distant as we need to be or as we feel comfortable being. But we're still able to go from analog to digital to analog in a way that's never been possible, at least in our knowledge of this go round on the planet. It used to be when you would meet someone, you'd cross paths with them, the only way to stay in contact would be with a postcard, a letter, a $6 a minute long distance phone call. Now, all we're paying is for our Wi-Fi access, sometimes not even, or we're paying to have a phone that has Wi-Fi access that connects. And so all of that to say is, with this technology comes a duty, comes a responsibility for us to connect. We're looking at a world right now that has never been more fractured in many ways, within our countries, within our families, within our communities. And yet we still have the desire to see the best in each other. That's why we're here today. That's why we have joined, Ottawa Connect. That's why we go to networking sessions. That's why we're on LinkedIn. It's why we're on social media. We have the innate desire to connect with each other. But I, again, challenge everyone to realize that there's also a responsibility, because those of us that have that desire, it's because we are way showers. We are being called to represent that connectivity, to embody that connectivity to people in our communities and our immediate circles who may not be as confident to connect with others, who may not be as engaged or enrolled in even the benefit of it. who may be operating from a place of fear of the other. You know, the other may not look like you, the other may look exactly like you, but we are the bridges. And therefore, I challenge everybody to do three things. One, it's dare to speak. Dare to speak up. Dare to say hello, even with the mask, even as we make eye contact. Sometimes we don't feel like talking, I get it. But now more than ever, it's time for us to put aside those limiting engagements with each other and focus on engaging with each other. The eye contact followed by the good morning, how are you? As a Southerner, I was raised with that. Living in Vancouver, it's challenging because some people look at me like I'm crazy. Some people avert or avoid eye contact, and others walk around. And yet, it's my responsibility to say, good morning, how are you? The second thing I would challenge you to do is to be permeable. It's to be open to what comes, what shows up. It's to allow for whatever engagement starts to unfurl for you, even if it's the opportunity to engage in a new business venture, or if it's the opportunity to make a new friend. You know, sometimes we are so focused on what we want. I need an accountant, as Zenny was talking about earlier, which I need as well. Or I need I need funding, or I need a relationship. I need romance. But sometimes you just need a friend. Sometimes someone else needs a friend. Sometimes someone else needs an ear. And that's where that daring to speak intersects with the permeability. Just allow whatever flows to be the right thing. And then finally, be willing to get it wrong. I think often our perfectionism, our desire not to be wrong, keeps us from engaging with people, keeps us from engaging with people of different backgrounds, of different experiences. And again, now more than ever, it's our responsibility in a world that is struggling with our commonalities, that's struggling with the needs that we all have. It's our responsibility to engage in conversations that can be challenging, where we can be wrong, where we can shift our perspective, where we can expand, and where we can learn how to love each other better, and therefore how to love ourselves better.